Oh, oh my gosh.
Isn't this crazy? Look, 3 nests.
Oh, wow.
Imagine trekking deep into an untouched forest, only to hear footsteps pacing you in the darkness, branches snapping, a presence you can't see but can feel closing in. Tonight we uncover one of the most chilling Bigfoot investigations ever caught on camera, and by the time we reach the ending, you may never walk alone in the woods again. In this documentary, we follow a team of seasoned investigators, eyewitnesses, and researchers as they pursue the truth behind a series of encounters that defy explanation. From a terrifying chase deep in the wilderness to physical evidence collected under controlled conditions, each segment peels back another layer of the mystery. You'll witness on-the-ground investigations with military precision, hear from experts who've dedicated their lives to studying the unknown, and even step inside the rare moments where myth collides with hard physical proof. Skeptics will find their questions confronted. Believers will find new reasons to believe. And by the time we reach the final, haunting footage, you'll be asking yourself the same question our team faced in the field. What if these creatures really are out there, watching us? We're deep in the wilderness with none other than Russell A. Cord, military veteran, survivalist, and seasoned Bigfoot investigator. Known for his ability to read the land and survive in hostile environments, Russell has spent years in the field chasing shadows and sounds. But this expedition has an entirely different edge to it. After hours of trekking through rugged terrain, Russell and his cameraman, Zach, finally set up camp in what Russell calls a perfect defensive position. A hillside rises behind them, thick underbrush on every side. From here, he can hear anything approaching. Off the main trail, they're well hidden from prying eyes, or so they hope.
This isn't a bad spot. I got this whole hillside above me. Not much that can get close to me without hearing it through the underbrush, which is good. But I'm off that main trail, too. So it gives me that privacy.
The forest is still, but Russell's instincts are on high alert. Shh, stop, stop, stop. He raises his hand, listening. I hear something, he whispers. Zach freezes but hears nothing. The thermal camera shows no heat signatures. Russell's not convinced. Branches, somewhere down the ridge, just snapped. It's faint, but deliberate. Zach shrugs. Russell doesn't. He knows that out here, the smallest sound can mean the difference between an uneventful night and an encounter you'll never forget.
Shh, stop, stop, stop. What is it, Russ? I hear something. I didn't hear anything. Okay. I got nothing on thermal. I heard what I thought sounded like branches breaking in the distance. I didn't see anything at all on those thermals. And Zach said that he didn't hear anything. And I suspect it's because I'm on high alert. I'm not gonna let my guard down.
Night falls. Minutes later, Russell picks up movement again. Soft, padded, purposeful. He decides to investigate. He told Zach, I'm going down this hill. You don't have to come. Zach stays behind, tending to camp, while Russell slips into the darkness.
Hey, Zach. Zach, hey man. Listen, I'm just gonna grab my gear. I want to run just down over the side of this hill. There's something back there, moving around. You don't have to go with me. I just want to go check it out, okay?
But when Russell returns, Zach is gone. His gear is still there. His light, his pack, everything except Zach. Russell calls out, scanning the tree line. No answer. His stomach sinks. Then, from the darkness, Zach's voice cuts through, strained and breathless. Russ, I fell. Russell follows the sound and finds Zach at the bottom of a sheer 15-foot rock enclosure. The ground around him is littered with broken branches, as if something had moved quickly through here. Zach's hands shake as he recounts what happened. He had stepped away from camp when he heard something heavy moving behind him. Not a squirrel, not a deer, something large. Panic took over. He bolted, running downhill, feeling it closing the distance. He never saw it, But the sound of branches snapping in rhythm with his own pounding footsteps was enough to make his heart race.
I've come back down just over this ridge. I got back to camp. Zach's not there. And I'm guessing he came over here looking for me.
Then, nothing. Silence. He'd backed up in the confusion, stumbled, and toppled over the cliff. Russell's military mind races. Whatever Zach heard, it was moving with intent. And if it wasn't following him down into the rocks, that meant it was still up there, somewhere in the trees. The two men scramble out of the enclosure and make their way back to camp, shaken but intact. But the day's not over.
Man, you're lucky. So was it a vocal or was it just something moving through here?
There's something heavy moving.
Yeah.
And then just, I don't know, man. It was enough to make me scared and make me scared enough to run away from it.
We thought we lost the trail.
Just 1 mile away, fellow investigator Ronnie meets with Maria, a local who has reported strange signs in this region before. She leads him into a dense, almost impenetrable thicket. The brush is so tangled, it feels like a natural fortress. Pushing through the briars, they find flattened patches of earth, bedding areas, far larger than any deer or bear would need. Maria explains that she's seen this before, deep in areas no human would choose to sleep in. If something wanted to hide, if it didn't want people finding it, this is where it would stay, she says.
1 mile away, Ronnie has met up with Maria to further investigate the densely thicketed area where she discovered evidence of large animals bedding down.
It's pretty brutal getting back here.
One thing that Maria stressed to me about this area that she had investigated was the sheer thickness of the thicket and the brush.
Ronnie nods. The thickness of the vegetation is suffocating. It's the kind of place where the forest seems to close in behind you, swallowing all trace of your path. The deeper they go, the stronger the feeling that they're being watched. And somewhere out there, on that same ridge where Zach heard movement, something may be watching Russell too. Tonight the plan is to regroup, review the trail camera footage, and decide whether to push deeper tomorrow. But already the terrain has proven one thing. This is not just any patch of wilderness. It's a place that defends itself, a place that can make people vanish in an instant. Russell knows the risks. Out here, every sound could be a clue or a warning. And when you're hunting something as elusive as Bigfoot, you don't always get a second chance to figure out which.
Was the sheer thickness of the thicket and the brush.
It just gets worse.
If you did want to bed down and stay in this area, this was the place to keep people out.
Morning breaks. After a tense night of strange sounds, vanishing teammates, and dense thickets, the team regroups with a renewed sense of purpose. Today, they're pushing deeper into the forest. The mission isn't just to chase stories, it's to collect proof. Proof that can finally answer the question, is there truly a human-like species out here? Or is it all hoaxes and campfire legends?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't this crazy? Look, 3 nests.
Oh, wow.
The forest is damp from the night's rain. The team moves carefully, eyes scanning the ground for signs, tracks, snapped branches, anything unnatural. Then, in a clearing, they see something that makes them stop cold. 3 massive nests. They're unlike anything Russell or the others have seen before. Interwoven branches form deep, bowl-shaped structures, lined with fresh green boughs, soft insulating layers carefully placed, almost like bedding in a hotel suite, built by hands that understand comfort. "Where's the third one?" someone calls. Following a faint trail, they spot it. Higher up the slope, another enormous nest, woven together like a giant basket.
3 nests.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't look like anything's changed from last night, so whatever made these didn't come back.
Wow. I'm just flummoxed. This is wild. These are absolutely just gigantic.
Russell says we ran into 2 nests like this once before in California, but now 3, which means we might be looking at 3 different creatures on this mountain. It's a chilling thought, but the positioning tells an even bigger story. To me, he continues, this spells out a family group, an alpha watching over the others. If there's a juvenile, it's usually going to nest with the mother.
And they have green, fresh boughs on top of them to make them comfortable like you would sleep at any hotel. I was not expecting this.
Where's the third one?
Follow this way. Hey, Ross, up here.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. That is huge.
It's like woven together.
Bryce agrees, and he's seen evidence like this before. Later, he shares the findings with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University. Dr. Meldrum confirms that one site he studied had a similar cluster of nests. His first impression? It was a birthing site. One nest was cradled in the crook of a bush about 2.5 feet off the ground, Meldrum recalls. The first thing I thought was, it looks like a bassinet.
This one particular site, there actually was a cluster of nests.
Wow.
My kind of gut reaction to the situation was that it was a birthing site. The reason I think that is there was one nest that was in the crook of a bush about 2.5 feet off the ground. When I saw it, the first thing that came to mind was, my gosh, this is a bassinet.
Bryce crouches beside one of the structures. I could fit 2 of me inside this thing, he says. The way they're situated together, it really looks like a family setup. Measurements confirm the scale. Each nest is over 9 feet in diameter. That could mean 4 Bigfoot in the area. The nests are still matted down, as if recently used. If that's true, the team might be able to collect DNA evidence before nature erases it.
So for reference, I'm going to label this one just Alpha Nest and write down the measurements, and we'll just go to all of them, get all that first, and then we just start diving in.
Great.
All right, let's measure this one.
Yep. We're at 9 feet on this one.
Same.
Oh, wow.
Same.
Here.
Yep, I got it. Right at 8 feet.
Time is short. Another storm front is less than an hour away. Maria moves quickly, carrying a hyperspectral camera, technology capable of detecting traces of animal DNA by scanning across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. It's detected something here, she says, marking a spot. I'm going to collect from exactly here. This gives us our best shot at a DNA signature. The wind picks up, the forest growing darker as clouds roll in. Maria kneels inside one of the nests, overwhelmed by its sheer size. It's like being in a hot tub built for giants, she says. This could hold several huge humans, easily.
It's detected something right here, so I'm going to go ahead and set that. That way we can keep that data, and I'm going to collect exactly from that spot. It's going to give us our best chances of getting any kind of DNA signature. I'm trying to collect as much evidence as we can while we still have it, because I don't know what's going to be left.
If the DNA tests confirm what they suspect, these aren't just nests. They're living proof that something enormous and intelligent still walks these forests. After days in the field, it's time to listen to those who've lived with this mystery for years. Bryce travels to meet Jenny, a lifelong resident of the area who claims to have had a terrifying encounter as a young girl. She's hesitant at first, but the memories come flooding back. Jenny recounts hiking in the mountains with her best friend and her friend's older sisters when she saw something, tall, black, and at least 7 feet high, standing just beyond a tree. It turned, looked right at us, and opened its mouth, she recalls. The teeth were unreal. The girls ran without stopping until they reached the house. Jenny insists it was no bear. It moved like nothing she'd ever seen.
Her sister has this look on her face, just frozen with fear. and there's something tall and black standing just off from a tree.
Could it have been a bear?
No,
How tall was this thing?
tall. I had to look at it. And it was big. It was at least 7 feet. I remember the sound of it coming after us. It's because it actually turned and looked at us and opened its mouth.
Years later, Jenny found fresh footprints while hiking with her boyfriend. The print was massive, with a stride 5 feet long. Strangely, one print contained a smaller one, suggesting a juvenile following its mother. She believes they may travel in family units, and points Bryce toward Pine Mountain, a location full of caves and untouched wilderness. The team heads out to investigate. In a swampy area surrounded by cattails, a known Bigfoot food source, they discover a large, smooth footprint. Maria points out 5 distinct toe impressions, a defined arch, and a clear heel. Initially mistaken for a boot print, the lack of tread rules that out.
And when we really got to look at it, it looked like there was another footprint inside of that footprint.
A smaller footprint inside one of the bigger ones.
And if you look really close right through here, maybe there was something stepping in the side of the tracks.
Yeah.
If you ever notice deer, the fawns stay really close to mom.
Mm.
And I was like, could this be baby that are following their mother?
I think we often misinterpret that there's only one of these creatures in the woods, but you know, a lot of the times people report them as family units.
Nearby, clusters of cattails appear chewed or broken. Researchers note that Bigfoot is reported to consume the stalks, much like animals that eat bamboo. The find is fresh. Recent weather suggests it would have been washed away if older. To rule out known wildlife, the team collects a soil sample for eDNA testing, environmental DNA, that can detect trace genetic material left behind. This cutting-edge method could reveal if a bear, deer, or something unknown made the track. The print is covered to protect it from rain overnight, allowing for a detailed scan in the morning. As Bryce observes, this is the best piece of evidence we have right now, and we're going to investigate it as thoroughly as possible. For now, the footprint stands as a silent marker in the mud, a tantalizing clue that something large and mysterious walks these forests.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you've got.
Now, is this
could be the back of the heel here.
is this a bear?
Definitely not a bear print. But initially, I thought it might have been made by one of our shoes. But look at how smooth this is.
Yeah, there's no tracks. Right?
We'll collect dirt from this area on the right side of the print. One of the things that we can do to rule out what it isn't is to take a dirt sample and conduct an eDNA study of anything that stepped through this area. It's environmental DNA.
No investigation into Bigfoot would be complete without hearing from one of the most respected voices in the field, Cliff Barackman. A veteran Bigfoot specialist and cryptozoologist, Barackman has been conducting field research since 1994. His relentless pursuit of the truth has taken him across 46 U.S. states and 5 continents, searching for evidence of undiscovered hominoids. Barackman approaches the subject with both passion and precision. He lays out the best evidence available: centuries-old indigenous artifacts depicting large hairy bipeds, detailed casts of enormous footprints with dermal ridges, and credible film and photographic evidence that has withstood decades of scrutiny. For him, the case is not built on folklore alone. It's grounded in tangible, measurable findings.
It is a series of steps, and evidence supports your hypothesis, which we'll talk about in a minute. Whereas proof is the end-all, be-all. That is it. There is no other way around it. This is proof. And for us, the evidence comes in all sorts of forms, and that's what we'll be speaking about today. But proof, no matter how you cut it, will essentially end up being a dead Sasquatch. Now, some other evidence might lead to that. For example, DNA evidence. If some species, like Homo denisovans, were discovered solely through DNA.
There are many proofs and hypotheses out there, he explains. I'm not telling you to believe irrationally. I'm asking a question and then giving you the answer. He warns against dismissing the evidence without examination, noting that doing so is not just closed-minded, but intellectually dishonest.
Called Oregon Bigfoot and Umatilla Sasquatch video investigation, stating at a certain timestamp they see a Bigfoot. The first one states, at 7 minutes and 37 seconds as you zoom in, there is a brown head and eyes and face peeking over the bushes. I originally noticed the dark rock cave looking area, which caught my attention.
Barackman reminds viewers that much of the skepticism surrounding Bigfoot mirrors the resistance faced by scientists when new species were first proposed, species that are now accepted without question. It would be unjust to any theory to disregard the information without even seeing it, he says.
But I mentioned that science is a process, and here are the steps of science. Science isn't this body of knowledge that's guarded by academics in these ivory towers trying to mislead us and sway political agendas and stuff. That's not what science is. Politicians sway political agendas, not scientists. Real scientists, they ask questions. That's essentially what they do. They ask questions, and then they try to answer their question. That answer is a hypothesis.
For those curious to dive deeper, Barackman points to past investigations and documentaries where his team has presented physical evidence, hair samples, body impressions, and trackways, collected under controlled conditions. The answers are there if you're willing to look, he adds. While the debate rages on, Barackman's work serves as a reminder. In science, conclusions should follow evidence, not the other way around. And when it comes to Sasquatch, the evidence is far too compelling to ignore.
So we're going to go gather evidence now. And there's all sorts of evidence we could take a look at. Now, mind you, none of these are proof. None of these are going to put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, which is probably not the right thing to say, considering I already told you a dead one is going to be necessary, but you get this, a figure of speech. So native accounts, historical and settler accounts, contemporary witnesses, sound recordings, photographs, these are all things that like a biologist would be looking for essentially. And that's the way the subject should be treated. Sasquatches are not UFO riding, shape-shifting interdimensional things.
Before revealing the physical evidence and modern sightings, we turn to one of the most important steps in any investigation, technical debunking. To do that, we start with the most famous footage ever captured of the creature, the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, shot in Northern California. In just a few seconds of shaky 16mm footage, an enormous, upright, ape-like figure strides across a clearing, glancing briefly toward the camera. This image has since become the unofficial emblem of Bigfoot.
This is the most famous footage of Bigfoot. It was shot in 1967 in Northern California, and this image has become the Bigfoot emblem.
Since then, thousands of videos, photographs, sightings, and alleged footprints have surfaced. Believers insist these are compelling proof. Skeptics argue they're nothing more than hoaxes or misidentifications. Yet, according to polls, more than 1 in 10 Americans believe Bigfoot is real. So what's fueling this decades-long mystery?
Countless other videos, photos, sightings, and footprints of a large ape-like man have been reported and studied. An avid group of believers supports the evidence as proof. A larger group of skeptics dispute it. More than 1 in 10 Americans believe Bigfoot is real, though. So what is behind the Bigfoot craze? What case do the believers make?
Get somebody out here. That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
And what case do the skeptics make?
It's just fake.
Who is right?
Bigfoot is one of several cryptids, creatures such as the Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, or Yeti, whose existence is unproven but passionately investigated by cryptozoologists. The term Sasquatch comes from the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, meaning hairy wild man, with depictions and oral histories dating back hundreds of years. Settler accounts began in the late 1800s, and by the mid-20th century, the term Bigfoot entered popular culture after 16-inch human-like tracks were found in Northern California.
Cryptozoology is the science of basically of animals that nobody has seen.
What exactly is Bigfoot, though? also known as the Yeti or Sasquatch.
That's a species. A Bigfoot is a upright, unacknowledged primate that exists around the world.
In the 1920s, there was an indigenous word that was basically anglicized for print that was coined Sasquatch.
Believers point to several main categories of evidence: eyewitness reports, footprints, hair samples, and audio recordings of strange, bellowing howls that bioacoustic experts struggle to match to any known species. Over 10,000 sightings have been documented, especially in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. Researchers like Dr. Jeff Meldrum have collected hundreds of footprint casts displaying anatomical features, such as a midfoot flexibility, that differ from human feet but match non-human primates. Unidentified hair samples, some morphologically distinct from known wildlife, add another layer of intrigue. Some scientists speculate Bigfoot could be a surviving descendant of Gigantopithecus, a massive ape that lived in Asia hundreds of thousands of years ago.
A hunter from Pennsylvania claims he took a picture of Bigfoot.
Massive wealth of eyewitness testimony, anecdotal evidence.
There have been an estimated 10,000 sightings reported across the country. Washington, Oregon, and Northern California are responsible for over a third of the reports.
I think probably the most compelling thing is witness testimony. Most of the sightings are road sightings, and after that it would be maybe hunters or hikers.
Then there's the Patterson-Gimlin film itself. Supporters argue that costume technology in 1967 was incapable of producing something so convincing, pointing out that even the high-budget Planet of the Apes film released a year later had less detailed suits. Analyses of the subject's gait also suggest biomechanics beyond human capability. And Roger Patterson passed a 1970 polygraph test affirming his account.
These haven't been very open to it. The scientists, they're not interested in it. They take this stance that it can't exist because it would have already been acknowledged or discovered by now, which is ironically not a very scientific stance at all.
It still is predominantly an amateur effort, or at least citizen science, and not real institutional efforts like scientific, academic, governmental institutions. Because if no one's looking, how reasonable is it to expect that someone's going to find them?
But skeptics counter with their own evidence. Despite the prevalence of smartphones, drones, and high-quality cameras, why do most alleged Bigfoot videos remain blurry and distant? If a breeding population exists, where are the bodies, bones, or other biological remains? In 2013, a University of Oxford and Museum of Zoology study tested 57 hair samples attributed to Bigfoot. All matched known animals: bears, deer, horses, cows, and even humans, with none belonging to an unknown primate. Other studies claiming otherwise have failed peer review or raised concerns over contamination.
Hair samples and other little pieces here and there, and they've always turned out to be a bear or a lion or something like that.
Of hair samples that are reticent of a type of species that's not acknowledged. They're different than the other samples that we have.
Now, hair has a structure. You can look at it morphologically or look at the anatomy of hair. So samples collect.
Skeptics also highlight confirmed hoaxes. In 1968, a supposed Bigfoot corpse toured the U.S., only to be revealed as latex and hair. In 2008, two men collected $50,000 for presenting a frozen body, later exposed as a costume. In 2012, a man in Montana was while faking a sighting in a ghillie suit. Some claim they were the figure in the Patterson-Gimlin footage, while costume makers have said they built the suit. The rise of AI and deepfake technology further complicates modern video evidence, making it harder for the public and scientists to accept new footage as genuine. Most academic institutions avoid funding Bigfoot research, leaving it largely in the realm of citizen science. Skeptics often conclude that sightings are either hoaxes, misidentifications, often of black bears, or products of overactive imaginations. Yet, believers argue that dismissing the phenomenon entirely is unscientific. As they point out, The giant squid was considered a sailor's myth for centuries until confirmed in the 19th century. Perhaps Bigfoot is another elusive creature waiting to step from legend into reality. For now, the debate continues, with both sides certain of their position. But the forests keep their secrets. In our next segment, we shift from analysis to hard, on-the-ground evidence. This time, the trail leads us to New York, more specifically, Clarence. Joining us is none other than Carmine Thomas Biscardi, a longtime cryptozoology enthusiast who has investigated countless Bigfoot cases across the country. Our witness is Hans Mobius, a local resident and landowner. Hans has been working these fields for years, maintaining his 60-acre property. Recently, while brush hogging and clearing areas, he decided to preserve certain trees. He called in a tree specialist to assess them. "I brought my camera out," Hans recalls, "and parked my vehicle right where you see it.
Well, I've been doing these fields, brush hogging these fields, the 60 acres here, for about 2 weeks. And then I got to this section here, and I wanted to preserve some of the trees, so I called the tree guy, and I said, is there any chance that you might be interested in buying the trees or taking them? And he said, yes. So I brought my camera out and parked the vehicle where you see it.
I walked about 200 feet toward a tree I wanted to save. That's when I saw it, standing there, partly obscured. Hans describes the moment with vivid precision. It pivoted, batted, turned to my left, then back to the right.
And walked about 200 feet towards that side. I left the rig here and I walked out there. Walked out to that tree. Okay. And that's when I saw
when you turned,
I saw this thing standing behind
this way, and that's where it pivoted.
But
when it pivoted, it went which way? That
way, and then back over, and it went behind this tree, and I couldn't see it, and I guess it went into the woods there.
And how far did you go in?
I didn't go in.
You said that you went.
Well, later on, I walked it, but at that time, I stayed away.
I took a picture, then another. In total, I managed 3 shots before it moved behind a dense group of bushes. The creature's behavior struck Hans as unusual. It looked confused, almost as if it didn't expect me to be there. It wasn't aggressive, just watchful. Later, curiosity drew Hans to retrace his steps, but at the time of the sighting, he chose to keep his distance.
And I took a picture, and it turned to my left. It looked confused, it just looked kind of funny. And then it turned back to the right, and I took another picture, so I actually took 3 pictures, and it ran behind those group of bushes that were right behind me. And that's all I saw him. He was gone.
Now, with Biscardi's expertise, the team is attempting to determine the creature's height based on its position in Hans's photographs. The still images, taken in broad daylight, provide a rare opportunity to analyze a sighting in which both the location and witness testimony are clear and well documented. For Hans, it's an encounter he won't forget. "It was there," he says firmly. "I saw it, and it wasn't anything I've ever seen before."
And this is the area it went. And it went into this area here? Okay.
Well, I was far enough away not to be afraid, because I didn't, when you see something big like that, you figure, well, maybe it'll come charging. But the reaction that it had was like it was afraid, that it moved away quickly. Now, it might have been attracted to my gator because there were a bunch of carrots in the back of the gator, which I was taking to our horse farm.
Sometime after Hans's encounter, another piece of the puzzle emerged, this time from just a few miles away from the very spot where he claimed to have seen the creature. A local woman named Allen was out for a walk when she noticed something unusual in the soft earth. A series of large, deep footprints. She quickly pulled out her mobile phone and began recording, capturing clear images of the impressions. The size, shape, and stride were unlike anything she had seen before.
When I saw it, it was only a little ways in. So as you can see, it's quite marshy, quite spongy. Yeah, it looks like it's all been washed away, but this was where I saw the footprint.
Word spread quickly, and the authorities soon became involved. They documented the prints and even created content around the discovery. What does this mean? It's entirely possible that the same creature Hans photographed had passed through this very area, leaving behind its unmistakable mark for the world to see. As we reach the final part of our documentary, we turn our attention to one of the most famous and hotly debated pieces of Bigfoot footage ever recorded. In this clip, a shadowy figure can be seen chasing a man deep within the forest. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but I am asking you to watch closely. Frame by frame, slow it down, study every detail. If this were simply a man in a suit, so many questions arise. The proportions are uncanny. The arm length is far longer than a human's, the shoulders are massive and broad, the neck is nearly non-existent, and the overall frame radiates raw, animalistic power. Could a costume be crafted with such anatomical precision? Possibly, but it would have to be an extraordinary creation, far beyond typical hoaxes. And if that's the case, we're left with two possibilities. Either this is an unmatched example of costuming skill, or we are truly witnessing something that walks the line between legend and reality. Our next sighting takes us to one of Ohio's most mysterious locations, Salt Fork State Park. Known for its rolling hills, dense forests, and fog-covered mornings, the park has been the subject of countless unusual reports over the years. Locals say it hides many secrets, and on one particular morning, Danielle and her dogs may have stumbled into one of them. Danielle recalls walking near the tree line when she noticed movement through the heavy fog. At first, it was only a vague shape, but as her eyes adjusted, the outline of a large bipedal figure emerged. Broad shoulders, towering height, and a presence that seemed far too massive to be human. "I couldn't believe what I was seeing," she explains. "I was terrified for my dogs. I've heard so many stories about these creatures not getting along with dogs, and I didn't want to take any chances."
My name is Danielle, and these are my videos.
There's no hiding.
At first, I'm just like, I cannot believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing right now. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was terrified for my dogs. I've heard so many stories of them and dogs not getting along, so that was where I got scared.
In her video, Danielle can be heard urgently calling her dogs away as the figure remains partially concealed by fog, seemingly unbothered by her presence. She believes the creature was using the mist as cover, an eerie tactic reported in other sightings.
No, us dogs, let's go now. We're leaving. It thought that the fog was hiding it, that I wasn't seeing it. Even though it heard me and saw me, it didn't seem like it cared.
14 months later, Danielle would have another chilling experience, this time at East Fork State Park in Lore City, Ohio. It was nighttime when she began hearing heavy cracking sounds, as if large trees were being snapped apart. Moving cautiously along the trail, she noticed massive logs crisscrossed across the path, as though something had deliberately placed them there to block her way.
I had just been walking through and I heard a lot of movement.
Are they moving stuff in front of the trail again? Look at that. That's where the tree comes out.
But when I started walking back, that's when I could see these logs moving.
That tree branch was not there like that.
These logs are huge, and they're crisscrossing them, blocking the path.
The atmosphere grew tense when Danielle realized something was watching her. Upon reviewing her footage later, she spotted it, a dark figure standing motionless just beyond the tree line. It appeared to be peeking out, gauging her movements without fully revealing itself. "That was not like that when I came in," she recalls. "It felt like a warning, like they wanted me gone." Theories suggest that such tree-breaking and obstruction behavior may be a form of intimidation, a silent command to leave the area. Danielle didn't hesitate. She turned and left immediately. But the question remains, how has she managed to encounter such an elusive creature multiple times, all without leaving her home state? Coincidence? Or something else entirely? The sun was slipping behind the rolling mountains. A soft hush settled over the forest. Jonathan and his friends were headed back to Humboldt County, the heart of Bigfoot country. Their goal was clear: camp at the Patterson-Gimlin film site, the most famous spot on Earth tied to the mystery of Bigfoot.
Just waiting on a couple more people, straight down that way, about a mile and a half. We're gonna get down to the Patterson-Gimlin film site.
They raced through mountain back roads, chasing daylight before night took over. At camp, they met Robert Lederman, a retired forest ranger and member of the Bluff Creek Project. Late into the night, Robert shared stories from his years on the job, tales of strange sounds and sightings that hung heavy in the air. Jonathan's night was rough. His sleeping pad deflated, but a reflective sheet kept the cold at bay. The forest around him was alive with quiet sounds, fox calls echoing in the dark, the faint rustle of leaves.
My sleeping pad deflated on me, but I had a couple sheets, mylar sheet and this other reflective sheet, so it wasn't too cold, wasn't too bad.
Hear a fox call last night several times. Just heard it again.
Morning brought crisp air and anticipation. Plans formed. The group split into two, one heading down to Scorpion Creek, the other to set up camp near the film site. Radios in hand, they prepared for what the woods might reveal. Jonathan reflected on the history beneath their feet. Back in 2012, game cameras were placed here, in the thick brush where mountain lions, bears, and foxes wandered freely. Nature was reclaiming what humans had once cleared. As he explored, Jonathan noticed subtle signs: the scent of spit on leaves, thorns scattered on the ground. Tiny details like these whispered that something larger had passed through. They found cold spots in the soil, places marked by what looked like claw marks pressed deep. Close by was the very spot where Patty, the figure from the famous Patterson-Gimlin film, stood before disappearing into the trees.
Close to here is actually where Patty stood up. And Roger and Bob came around here, started filming her right over here, and right the way that these gentlemen are walking is where she took off.
Jonathan traced the old road where Roger and Bob filmed. He imagined the chaos, the horse struggling, the camera being pulled free, the rush to capture a moment no one else believed.
This is a remnant of the old road where Roger Patterson and Bob Gillen rode in. Over here there's a root stump. Reached for his camera finally, got it out, his big bulky camera that's heavy. By the time he got it, as he's running, as he got it in his hands and ready to film, he's already about here, which is frame 1. And the time accounted for from there to here makes perfect sense for someone that's falling off a horse and struggling to handle their camera.
Camp was set without fires. The rules of the forest kept their flames low. Lights glowed softly, night vision cameras ready. The group hoped for movement in the shadows. Cougars were known to patrol the paths nearby. But something bigger, something unseen kept their attention. Stories surfaced. One friend described an odd sighting, a face appearing briefly on a hillside, disappearing as fast as it came.
On the turn there, Mom was playing around with the brights to mess with them, and then she turned on the bright, and then I saw it looked like Tate's face pop up at the end of the road, and I was like, why is he doing on the side of the hill? That's weird. And I told her that I was like, see Tate over there? She turned off the brights again, and I was like, no, turn it back on. You can see him. And then she turned it back on. He wasn't there. And then we got around the corner and we realized he was in the middle of the cellar area.
The air had turned cold. A feeling of unease settled over the group. Later, Jonathan ventured alone, searching for footprints. He found an impression, deep and large, pressed into soft earth and powdery sand. Pebbles were pushed beneath it, showing weight and presence. He shared the image with experts. A geologist suggested it might be the mark of melting snow, shaped by nature.
So this here's a same kind of sand.
That's the sand you're looking at. This is the, as Stephen Sofer likes to call it, the malleable sand.
Mhm.
It's really soft and powdery and captures the detail. There's just enough, I guess, clay or whatever's involved. Holds this form. You can barely see my fingerprints in it, see? See your fingerprints? Just barely see them.
But for Jonathan, and many like him, the forest held more mysteries than explanations. They walked miles through ancient woods, chasing clues in moss, dirt, and shadow. No Bigfoot appeared that trip. But the feeling lingered that somewhere, just beyond sight, something was watching. The forest does not give up its secrets easily. What would you believe if you stood here, alone in the cold breath of the trees? Watch this part where Jonathan finds the footprint impression.
It was then that I found what looked like a Bigfoot footprint. If this was an impression, it would have to be by something very large and heavy.
Have you ever returned to a place, not just to revisit it, but to test it? A man from the YouTube channel Bigfoot Zone, ECBRO, set up camp deep in familiar woods. Same spot, same layout. A simple tarp extended a little farther. A cot, low to the ground, suited for the tight tent. Nothing flashy, just routine. Until it wasn't. At first it was quiet. He was settling in, walking game trails, moving slowly. Bad knees, compression socks, cautious steps. Then he noticed something strange. A flat stone, too flat, too exposed, resting beside a dead stump. Maybe natural, but maybe a marker, something placed long ago.
You got this old dead stump right here. But look at this stone right here. Is this natural? Because look at that. It was just sticking up out of the ground. I don't know. It's like as if it's been placed there at some point in time.
He moved uphill through dense forest, following the narrow rise of a ridge. It was steep, remote. Then, tree breaks. Not fresh, not old, just recent enough to raise questions. Watch yourself.
Look at that tree break right there. Hasn't been broke all too long, but it's not fresh, but it's not old either. It's broke over, going down here.
A branch nearly 8 feet high snapped clean, with no fallen limbs above. No clear cause. Beneath it, an X formation of crossed branches pressed into the earth. Not natural placement, not random. Then came another, a larger tree, this one twisted, not just bent, twisted. He pointed out how trees spiral internally, how weight and momentum could do that.
Here's a tree break, fairly large tree. Notice how it has a twist. Weight, momentum, weight, and momentum. Weight and momentum causes the tree to fall and break.
But still, the pattern repeated, too often to ignore. He pressed higher, found hunter blinds, makeshift barriers shaped from debris. But something felt off. He pushed on. Then a tree. Standing tall, but 4 others leaned inward, meeting it at the top, like a wooden teepee. A natural coincidence? Or something else?
You got one standing tree, and then joined by it, all leaning in, connecting at the top. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the one standing tree right here.
The ground shifted beneath him. Soft soil, perfect for tracks. Deer prints mostly. But then something unusual. A wide impression, an arch, toes. He studied the terrain. The impression led back the way he came, from rocky ground where no tracks could remain. Still, something had passed here. Something heavy. Watch yourself.
Wait a minute here. Wait a minute. What do we have here? What do we have here? I think we have right here. Right up here is the arch where the toes are. Whoa. Okay. I think we might be onto something here. But it's facing going the direction I just came from.
An old paintbrush, just sitting there, out of place, as if it had been carried. Then the knock. Wood on wood, sharp, intentional. He froze, grabbed his flashlight, scanned the dark tree line beyond his camp. No eyeshine. Yet. He'd just stopped recording. Of course. And then, another knock, louder this time.
I promise you, it was a wood knock. Wood on wood. And I bet you it's on the other side of that marshy swamp area. But right after that, right when I started recording, I thought I heard movement right here in the woods somewhere.
Movement just beyond the firelight. He checked his trail cameras, one facing outward, another deep in the trees, one watching the opposite edge. Nothing triggered, stillness, frogs croaking by the river, smoke rising in the dark. Watch this part eyeshine, twin reflections, staring right back at him. No movement, just a slow dip, a low crouch. He held the camera steady. You can hear his breath, see the fire flicker in the lens, a moment frozen.
You're not gonna believe this. There it is. There's eyeshine right there. Look. Oh shit, it's looking right at me. Scanning this thing. There's eyeshine right there. There it is right there. Holy shit. Did you guys tell me you guys saw the eyeshine?
Then silence. And just like that, it was gone. What do you think those eyes belong to? A curious animal or something else? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This place, this spot he always returns to, never disappoints. And maybe that's the point. Have you ever walked into a place and just felt it? That stillness that doesn't come from silence, but from something deeper. Like the woods aren't just quiet. They're watching. Not with menace, but with memory. Like something old knows you're there. Ash and Todd know that feeling. They've felt it more than once. They're not out here for fame or proof. They don't call themselves experts, just listeners, trackers. Two men drawn back to places the rest of the world seems to forget. This morning they returned to one of those places. A narrow path curved beside a slow-moving river. Moss clung to trunks like it had for centuries. The air was damp. Mist curled along the forest floor like breath rising from deep underground. The crows were already calling. A single woodpecker knocked once, then went still. Even the wind seemed to pause. Ash led the way. Todd followed just behind. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Each step was placed with care, boots pressing softly into the rain-soaked ground. They weren't just walking through the woods. They were stepping into something older. Then, they stopped. Watch what happens here.
I have to talk about this because it's no small deal. So Ash, you saw something yesterday after we heard that. We definitively heard a Sasquatch out here. Then you did see something? What did you see?
As if something was... So we were watching. Todd was in front of me, and when I looked to the left as if we were walking, it's like it was alongside us.
From somewhere beyond the rise came a sound. A low, rolling growl. Not aggressive, not familiar either. Not a bear, not a bobcat. It was deeper, almost like the ground itself had groaned. Then, stillness again. Todd turned. Ash stayed still. Look closely at the tree line.
they're mimicking. I don't know what it is, but it's like they want to copy what Todd is doing, or they're trying to see if Todd can notice how close they're actually getting.
So it was like the Bill thing, wasn't it? It was like Bill's footage. Because that's the hill. See this hill right here? That's the hill that I saw a dark figure on yesterday. We'd heard the Sasquatch clearly. We were moving in the direction that it was, which was over here, is where we were, and it was up on this hill. Did you see?
Through the breaks in the trees, something moved. Not rushed, not hiding. It stepped when Todd stepped. It paused when they paused. One figure, tall, broad, shadowed between the trunks. Its stride matched Todd's exactly, one step behind. Ash raised his phone, but it was gone before he could focus. No clear outline, just a flicker, a movement, a shape too fluid to be a man. They stood there, not frozen by fear, but by something else. It hadn't charged, it hadn't growled again, it had simply mirrored them. Rewatch this playback sequence.
Like a couple minutes after you.
Right, and what I saw was, it's amazing, she says mimicking. So I was moving north in a very specific gait, and when I gently looked over and I saw the Sasquatch, the big dark figure moving through the trees, it was the same speed as me.
Yeah.
It was the same kind of gait that I was moving, because I was moving barefoot as well.
It's like a complete reflection, like you're looking in a mirror.
Later, they played the clip back. The sound was there. So was that flicker, just enough to know they hadn't imagined it. Ash said it didn't feel like a warning. Todd agreed. It felt like recognition, like the forest had opened a door, just for a moment, and let them see something on the other side. The encounter left no claw marks, no footprints they could follow, just questions. This final glimpse might be easy to miss.
At the time, it just I felt what was creating success. I was going to keep doing what was creating success. And then when I heard her say the same thing and see the same thing, and again, when you looked over, you looked back and looked away, right? These are shy beings, and they're slowly, cautiously moving towards us. You don't want to go, oh my God, it's an Sasquatch. If you get that energy, you're going the wrong way.
Why reveal itself that way? Why follow, then vanish? Back at camp, the mist lifted. The birds returned. The woods seemed to breathe again. But something lingered, that quiet feeling, like something had seen them and let them go. So the question remains, have you ever seen something just beyond the veil? Felt it? Heard it? And if you did, would you tell anyone? Or would you let the forest keep its secret? Have you ever stood at the edge of silence, waiting for the forest to speak? That quiet, heavy pause, where every breath feels loud, and the world holds its secrets close. This is exactly where our witness found himself. Deep in the wilderness of northwestern Alberta, Canada, at a place known as Seven Creeks. A man who has been tracking Bigfoot since 1972 and documenting their presence since 2019, he moves with patience and respect, hoping to catch even the faintest sign. The day was cold and still. Fresh snow blanketed the ground, bending low the branches of ancient trees. No clear path marked his way. He was bushwhacking, stepping carefully into the thick of the forest, where only the wild rules. Each footstep sank deep, muffled by snow, as he searched for a trail that would lead him closer to the creatures he's spent decades trying to understand.
I'm hearing there's 3 now, possibly 4, but 3 for sure. Woodknucks way to the west. When I first got here, you see me whistling my loon call, and I got that very loud deep. It was quite a ways to the west, but now they're closer. So we need to go.
Suddenly, faint wood knocks echoed far to the west. 3 or maybe 4 taps, sharp and deliberate. He responded with a lone whistle, a long call meant to reach something unseen. The knocks came back louder, but from the other side of a main road cutting through the wilderness. The sounds were real, deliberate, a conversation in a language we can barely grasp. Switching cameras because his first was about to die, he continued deeper into the forest. Around him, the only sounds were the snap of twigs beneath his boots, the rustle of snow-laden branches, and the occasional woodpecker's rhythmic tapping. No human voices, no vehicle noise, just the vast, ancient quiet of the forest and something else, something larger.
Worth my time to move that gifting bowl downhill. See, and then I'd have this to walk on, and then I could head up, right? Straight in. I'm thinking of myself. I rarely do that where,
He stopped near a gifting bowl, a place where offerings are left for the Sasquatch, a sign of respect, an invitation. Here the calm settled thick and heavy. Footsteps echoed nearby, slow, careful. Amid the silence, he heard something low and guttural, a grunt or a groan that sent a chill through the air. The forest seemed to hold its breath. He moved slowly, mindful not to disturb the delicate balance. Thoughts drifted through his mind. Could these creatures have clans, meetings, family ties? Do they gather here like we do, for reasons unknown? They must have babies, he thought. They grow old, just like us. And in that, a strange kinship.
the air is very, very, very silent. Very still. Keep your eyes and your ears open. I know all you might hear is my footfalls, but can't be helped right now.
As the sun sank low, shadows stretched long between the trees. More wood knocks came, almost like a message. We hear you. We know you are here. Footsteps padded softly, always just beyond sight. The forest was alive, alive with sounds familiar yet strange. The temperature stayed steady, warmer than expected for late winter, a subtle hint that the seasons were turning. He packed up his gear, eyes lingering on the trees that held their secrets tight. There was no fear here, only respect and awe for what hides in the stillness. What do you think moves in those shadows? What stories are told in wood knocks and distant grunts? The forest waits, holding its mysteries close. And so do we. Watch the quiet moment here, listen closely to the knocks just behind the camera.
Even if the rest of them are busy, one or two will let me know, right? That they know I'm here, they hear me. It's almost like they're saying, I hear you, we're here. And I'm holding my breath. Give me a second.
Can you feel the presence? If you were standing here alone in the woods, hearing those footsteps just beyond your sight, what would you do? From the shadows of Salt Fork State Park to the hidden nests high in remote ridges, this investigation has taken us deep into a world where the line between legend and reality blurs. We've examined the evidence, heard from those who've seen the impossible, and challenged the theories that try to explain it all away. In the end, whether you believe in Bigfoot or not, one thing is certain. These forests still hold secrets. And sometimes, those secrets watch us back. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this story is far from over.